Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz, and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before, and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below, and of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go.
Today's story is from The Ascension of Anastasia, and we're at chapter 9. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though, so without further ado. Anastasia Lewis has just won her second Starlight accolade in as many months, and she was feeling triumphant. Most actresses her age had begun to fade into obscurity, but her star was quickly rising, and she was so proud of herself. The Anastasia of 3 years ago wouldn't have believed where she was now. Not the least of all because, although you definitely couldn't tell yet, for the first time ever in her entire life, Anastasia was finally pregnant. She was only 2 months in yet, but that was further than she'd ever been before. Anastasia had struggled to get pregnant for years with her ex-husband Anton, only to get there within 6 months of meeting Emmanuel. Anastasia and fellow actor Emmanuel Valdivia had had a whirlwind romance. After meeting on the set of popular historical fiction soap opera The Waiting Room, they'd proceeded to go public, get engaged, and then fall pregnant, all within the space of the same 6 months Anna had won her recent awards in. So far, the only person other than Emmanuel that Anastasia had told about her pregnancy was her best friend and favourite photographer, Philip Merchant. Anna hadn't known Phil for that long either, really, but they'd bonded quickly and, despite carrying a torch for her himself, Philip was so happy for her. Anastasia was delighted to be pregnant too, but she'd never expected it to be this difficult physically. She was sick all day, every day, barely able to keep anything down, and she had a constant raging headache. Anastasia felt as if her whole body was against her. Everyone said pregnant women were supposed to glow with health, but Anna was grey and sickly. Emmanuel didn't know much about making babies, but he knew that she needed to eat to keep his child healthy. It was all well and good for her to cook. She cooked him lovely meals every day, but she had to eat them too. Anastasia was quiet as he talked, trying not to remember how her ex used to lecture her like that too. It was strange how quickly it all came back to her. Now that she was pregnant, Anastasia found herself having to say no to scripts, but Emmanuel had no such issues. She was beginning to see a glimpse into their future, a future where she slipped into the background and Emmanuel stayed a superstar. It was almost a relief then when one spring morning Anastasia felt a sudden, excruciating pain in her stomach. Something wasn't right. She knew it wasn't. Running to the bathroom, Anastasia clutched at herself desperately. This was why she hadn't wanted to tell anyone. She had been so hopeful, but Deep down inside herself, she'd always known this would happen. It just wasn't meant to be. A few hours later, after everything was mostly over and she could leave the bathroom, Anastasia broke the news to Emmanuel that she'd lost the baby, their baby. She was numb by now, having accepted her fate. Emmanuel was far less numb. Always a passionate man in everything he did. His grief was no exception, and he cried out in enraged anguish. His cry of rage was so deep and guttural that it broke down Anna's protective shell, and she started crying herself again. This wasn't fair. Her whole life she'd waited and dreamed of a baby of her own, and never once had she ever imagined that if, after all these years of infertility, she finally fell pregnant, that she would lose the baby? Emmanuel couldn't believe it either. He'd had a dream crushed here too. Inside his head, he'd thought to himself that Anna would have this baby and become his happy little semi-famous housewife, while he continued to work and act. He had no idea how any of this baby biology stuff worked, but somehow a big part of him started to blame Anastasia for this loss almost immediately. Emmanuel didn't say anything to Anastasia at the time, but it began to eat away inside of him over the next few days at work. How could she do this to them? Everything had been going so well, and she had been pregnant with his baby. Now she wasn't. And who was to say that this wouldn't happen again? And that brings us to the end of Chapter 9 of The Ascension of Anastasia. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye.